Hello and welcome to Better Business Podcast. My name is Alexei, and today I've got Phoebe Wright with us. How you going there, Phoebe?
Very well, thanks, Alexei.
Phoebe runs a company called White Space Marketing. I've known Phoebe for quite some time, and I think she'll probably be able to share some interesting things behind her business and I guess how she helps clients. So, Phoebe, you and I would have met probably about 2012, maybe 2013, like quite a
Yes,
while ago. Sounds like a
yes,
lifetime.
yes, it is a lifetime ago. It's actually 10 years ago. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot has happened in that 10-year period. We were quite small at that time when I met you, and we've changed tack a number of times over those 10 years.
Mm. Well, we met through a networking group called BNI, and I'm sure many business owners are familiar with the concept. But personally, I would definitely recommend businesses that are looking for clients or basically building a network to have a look into it. How did you find BNI? I mean, what's your experience with it like?
At that time, it was excellent because we were not starting off, we've been around for 20 years now, but we were changing direction and doing more social content and social media management and marketing and so forth. Whereas when we started, we were just design, I suppose. So at that point, it was great. And I met like people like yourselves and other people that I'm still in touch with from that first BNI that I joined. We've sort of come to a point, we reached a point where we were targeting larger businesses and we went into different types of networking events. But at that time, it was excellent.
Cool. Yeah. Well, look, I think BNI is one of those things that works out quite well for businesses at a certain point. I think over time, it's something that obviously, needs to evolve over time. But I guess it all really comes down to your personal skills. But great. Look, tell us about the business. I mean, what is it that you focus on these days? What is it that you sort of transition from? Tell us your story.
Okay. Well, we haven't got to at 2 hours. We've only got a little bit of time. But no, I actually myself am a trained illustrator. I went to art college. That's where I started. And when I've quickly realised that there was not a lot of money in fine art or illustration, I went into hospitality and I learned how to look after people. Um, After a period of time, I started back into design, and that's when computers were and graphic design was really coming to its own, and sort of taught myself a whole lot of skills and ended up working for a number of people, client side, agency side. But my last job was working for the Jupiter's Group, Jupiter's Limited, and I built their design department up to about 8 creatives that we were running all sorts of promotions and all sorts of, yeah, I suppose, suites of marketing collateral. We chose to walk away from corporate to get control of our lives a little bit more at that point, and started White Space Marketing, which was White Space Design then. It became White Space Marketing around the 2010 or so.
Hmm.
Over the years, it's grown from just design into web design, into working with partners like yourself for development, into really focusing on brand and social marketing, social media marketing, and organic content. We've seen so many changes in the last 20 years in terms of marketing. You know, when we started, marketing, people would ring up and say, we need marketing. And what they wanted was a brochure. Whereas now people ring and say, we want marketing, and what they want is a full brand suite, new web, landing pages, Google ads, social media ads, social content, the whole thing, because it's so much more competitive. So, it's while that has all changed, the one thing I've sort of see as the same is that the marketing premise, the actual basics of marketing remain the same. We need to be in front of people. We need to be consistent about what we're saying. We need to understand our target market and really have that honed, that messaging honed, and show them the right conversation and the right material and the right message at the right time on their consumer journey. So it's a lot more dedicated in that consumer journey now. But if you don't have those basics, you're sort of missing out. So we have a 3-stage approach, I guess. It's basically, are you ready for traffic? As in, have you got a brand? Have you got a decent website? Have you got your socials up to date? Are you current and relevant and all that sort of stuff? That's brand. Then you have marketing 101, which is doing content, doing email newsletters, making sure that everything is looking really, really polished. And then you've got sort of version, level 3, which is amplify, which is ads, advertising through whichever way you can to get traffic to your website or get traffic into your store or whatever. So it's really about understanding when clients come to us where they're at, and so therefore what they need, and not doing what they don't need, if that makes sense. It's
Absolutely.
long-winded, wasn't it? That was very long-winded.
No, that was great. That was really good. I think, yeah, many businesses obviously that have been around for quite some time would obviously relate. And I think obviously digital marketing has transformed businesses, especially, the small business segment quite a lot because I think back in the days you do a flyer and then from there it'd be a very simple process of getting flyer distribution and you probably get some leads through something like that. I mean, I think people have become immune to things like that. So if you're just doing the flyer by itself without a bigger strategy, it's probably not going to be as efficient. Obviously, it depends on the niche and the market, but I think having a digital strategy around a piece of content that goes out directed at the right target audience is definitely the way to go.
It is, but that's, you come back to knowing who your target market is. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is not just being creative, which we've got the creative in spades. We've got a small team, but they're very talented, I guess, and we've been with us for a long time. So we've got that creative aspect, but if it doesn't relate to the business and deliver what the business is seeking to achieve, there's just no point in doing it. So, we'll often get people who have gone elsewhere. I'm not trying to be negative at all, and they've done work with an agency that really didn't actually add to any success, any, bottom line sales, any lead gen, anything that they really wanted to achieve. So if it doesn't add to that, we'll just say, no, we won't do that. We're not going to take your money. So that's sort of where we stand.
Okay.
We'll shoot ourselves in the foot a couple of times, but that's honesty and integrity as far as we're concerned.
Cool. So I guess when it comes to small businesses and starting out in terms of marketing, I mean, would you have any tips, or do you find that people sort of fail somewhere where you see a bit of a pattern? And I guess there's some advice you'd be able to provide them. Like we're talking small business owners that are looking to market, looking to sort of do better in terms of what they do.
I think that the key to any small business marketing is to is firstly that get that look and feel right so that people recognize you. I think it's less than a second. It's 0.7 of a second when you go to a website these days, that if you're not drawn in straight away, they're going to go. Have that consistency everywhere, but also just choose your poison wisely. You don't need to be on every single platform. Where's your audience playing? Look, there's some amazing businesses that are just on TikTok. That's because that's where their audience is. It's still cheap advertising. They're getting a lot of leverage, I suppose, but they've got that really polished, clear-cut message. They know where their audience is. That's what they do. If you're a broader market, then it's doing what you guys do, but having the marketing message really, really succinct. So trades and all that stuff that if you've got a brand that stands out and they're sending them to a landing page, make sure that landing page matches the ad. Don't waste your money, because this is what we see a lot of times. Someone will go to an agency and get a logo or a brand, go somewhere else and get digital ads or whatever, and never the two shall meet. It doesn't seem to match, and you just can't afford to do that. So pick your market and pick your poison, but also don't expect. This is a hard one for businesses too, because people ring and say, I need leads, and we don't. We do Facebook ads, which is generally sometimes lead generation, but more often than not these days, it's brand awareness and building audiences that can be then marketed to through an email or what have you. So, you can't just go, right, I'm going to put an ad out and get a lead. It just doesn't work. You've got to actually understand how the customer thinks. And if you can understand how the customer thinks and meet them at every time you're interacting with them and knowing what their emotional response is, you're going to have a much better flow of trust from them, I suppose. That's really, it's all marketing speak and a bit wanky and all that sort of stuff, but it's If you can do that and spend the time understanding your market, you'll cut through quicker.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the way I like to look at that is, is something I call qualifying for intent. Because a lot of the time, what happens is if you look into search ads, people sort of know what they're looking for. And a lot of the time with certain keywords, there is an intent behind certain keywords. So if someone's looking for, let's say, I don't know, painter, South Brisbane or something, you know that that person is looking for a company located in South Brisbane. They probably need something rather soon. However, a lot of the time that query will take a while to originate until the person actually feels right and starts doing the research. So if you actually beat them to it and show them the ad prior, it's really about qualifying for that intent. So you could potentially do a lot better out of that search if you would have done some brand advertising and engage them in some prior ads, show them case studies, before and afters, your process, and make them
Yes.
really excited about something. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the people, they're not sure exactly who they're going to engage. And the only thing they can think about is price, which is where you're going to have another problem if you just sort of advertise through the one channel where everybody else is sort of focusing on price. There's nothing else to really focus on. And I guess unless you're able to grab their attention and take them through a process, then the first conversation is going to be how much do you charge, and how much this, how much is that, because clients don't know anything else about the service. You're just not giving them enough information. So yeah, 100% I agree. I think top of the funnel stuff with meta ads and I guess different KPIs around what that sort of campaign is supposed to do is really the key. Because a lot of the time I meet clients who be like, hey, we want to try Google ads, and said, what have you done in the past? Oh, we did Facebook ads and they didn't work for us. Like, did you expect to get leads from those? Okay, so what'd you do? And a lot of the time people had no idea. They just basically did some sort of an engagement campaign and it didn't quite work out. Well, anyway, you know all about it, but I think our listeners would definitely benefit from a little bit of talk like this.
Yes, I think so. And I mean, we've done it with a client that we both worked on, where we've done engagement and brand in Meta, and you've done Google at the bottom end, and it's worked a treat. And it's really, you can't expect people to make a judgment call when they see one ad that isn't written well.
Mm.
It's incredible, actually. The copy is such a big part of this stuff, particularly at the top end of the funnel, and web, and everything you do with content. That tonality. So many ads I see poorly written, and I just go, no one's going to. No, and like you say, price point. People putting price points into ads is just a race to the bottom, and you're going to waste a lot of time. You've got to actually understand the psychology around how they're going to choose. And until you build that trust, once you build the trust, the price point matters so much less, because they already think that you know what you're doing and they understand that you have an experience and so forth. So, it's even like LinkedIn content. We do LinkedIn content for clients as well. And it's really the number of people I see on LinkedIn who are selling all the time, sell, 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 and no one wants it. No one builds trust from that. You've got to help and educate and give and give and give, until people actually think that you know what you're doing and what you're talking about. It is a leap of faith from an agency and a business and so forth to go, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do this. The thing is, people don't want to know how to do it. They just want it done. They just want to know what's in it for me. They don't care.
Yeah.
But if they trust you and they can see that the what's in it for me is an outcome and a benefit for them, you're pretty much 80% there.
Yeah, well, the whole know, like, and trust concept, I guess, is very, versatile when it comes to marketing. And if you look at the classic LinkedIn stuff, I mean, I log in every day to sort of check my messages because I do communicate with quite a few people there. But there's a ton of people that I've never heard about that are sending me, emails or messages this long, basically telling me, hey, come to this event, or this is what I'm doing, this is how much I charge. Yep. I've got no interest in that at all. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, other people like that, because there's no personal touch to it. And I think, I don't know the person. I don't specifically like what they're offering me. How can I trust them? I think that as a concept is really quite versatile, which is where I think reversing the entire process can really work a lot better. But it definitely requires a strategy and proper execution, because I think it's not really about quantity. It's really more about quality. I mean, most businesses like ours, you probably only need about 2 to 3 good customers a month to work with in order to make it worth the while.
Yeah.
as opposed to trying to get dozens of customers and sort of try to please them with some sort of a service where you fill in the gap, but you're not really getting them the result. So that's my take on the whole thing.
I think that that's really important too. Reversing the process is really interesting, because one of the things that we do as a matter of course with any client, but particularly with web design clients, is it's the objections. We weave the objections into the copy and then the flow, so that standard objections are dealt with without the customers even realizing that they've gone, oh, that's right, they tick that box for me. I don't have to ring them and ask them. And one of the clients that we did, a pool company, when we put up their new website, because of the way that the flow went, their conversion, their phone calls dropped, but their conversion rates went up by 40%, because the quality of the phone call coming in was far, far greater. So it was just a no-brainer for them, and it was incredible. Actually, they were just like, this is amazing. We're not going out to site inspects and wasting our time as much. So it's really that sort of customer psychology and that reverse factor. That's really interesting, the way that you've coined that, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I guess for us, a lot of the time you have customers coming to you and they're like, hey, we need more leads. And it's like, well, how many leads do you need? Oh, we maybe need, this many. And it's like, well, what's your conversion rate? How many of these are you closing? And it turns out that a lot of the time the conversion rate is actually really low. So if someone's closing 1 in 5, 1 in 10 sort of leads, there's definitely an issue. Like, I think a service-based business should be closing maybe 1 in 3, maybe maximum 1 in 4 to start with. And then I reckon they should be closing 50%. And there's basically two parts to the problem. There's either the message that goes out to the customer and the process that qualifies that message further. And I'll explain that in a second. And then there is the actual lead handling process as well. So in the first part, I find that a lot of the time, people run, let's say, a Facebook or a Google ad, and then that lead would come through, just name, email, phone number, and that's it. There's not enough additional information in order to qualify that inquiry better. And then if a person gets back to them a day or two later, it's too late. It just doesn't quite work out. Whereas if you were to add an additional field saying, how soon do you need something like that? Like, okay, I'm looking to do this in the next month, in the next 6 months, and so on and so on. You should be able to jump on the leads that require attention sooner. And this way, if you connect that conversation, that'll work even better. Now, the rule of thumb right now is if someone's inquiring about a particular service, especially if it's a high ticket item, they probably would have reached out to another half a dozen businesses just with the same message. So automating a response within 5 minutes is really the key to get them. So if you're able to do that, and if you think about your own case, I mean, let's say you're looking to get a swimming pool, or you may be wanting to build a deck. If someone replies back within 5 minutes, that's a wow factor where they're excited enough about the inquiry, and you're going to beat everybody else who's about to come back to them with a quote, and you'll have a pretty good conversation. So it's really more about qualifying through the fields you get, and also then getting the timing right. Now, the how is obviously a big question, because a lot of people are like, hey, I'm busy and so on, but there are a lot of automated processes that can be implemented, VAs and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I just think that overall that there's a need for change in a lot of the marketing, because I see a lot of campaigns where there's no issue with marketing whatsoever, but I think there's an issue with lead handling as the lead comes through. So that's a lot of the stuff that we've been doing the work on lately. Yeah.
That's something that, we did used to work in the car industry for a long time in Meta, doing a lot of Meta ads. And that was a huge problem, that the lack of speed and the lack of response to convert the leads, and they just go elsewhere. You're absolutely right. But the other thing too, and this sort of brings up another conversation, which is about something that we focus on very heavily when we're doing any sort of marketing, is we always, in our first conversation, ask, what is the sales process? Because traditionally in corporate, right, sales is over here and marketing is here, and sort of there's a wall between them. But we believe that's not the case. We believe that the marketing should absolutely mirror a successful sales process and support it. So that's part of the sales process, right? So if they had that right, then it's about putting the right messages in as those automations, sending the right documentation as a, we'll get back to you in 24 hours. In the meantime, have a look at these case studies, that sort of stuff. So the sales process is really, really important. And for small businesses, that's something else that they need to focus on too, because if they know how they sell, if it needs human interaction, or if it's an automated online thing, that's yet again, where are the customers having contact, and how can you best sell them and build trust at that point?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, another thing I wanted to quickly ask you about, because I think a lot of business may benefit from this, is what's your take on strategic alliances? I guess, you and I have been doing business together for quite some time, but, when it comes to businesses, in similar space to yourself, or maybe even me, or I don't know, anything, like, what's your take on strategic alliances, and is there something that you'd recommend?
Well, no, I totally do. I think that strategic alliances with the right, the right people, which takes me back to something I didn't say about what I've seen over 20 years, which is trust your gut. If you think that somebody is not a fit, they're not a fit. If you
Mm,
think they're a fit, they're a fit. And you guys are a fit. But yeah, definitely strategic alliances can work. That's the key to that, though, is knowing boundaries. You can't muddy the waters between, especially if there's an overlap of services. But, I think that it's really key to do what you're good at and what you're best at, and sort of get somebody else who's a specialist to do the stuff that it might be a second tier service. Do what you're really good at, and work with other people to get the best result for the client, because ultimately you're only as good as your last project. And it's as simple as that. We do some amazing web stuff with you guys, and people are, it works really well all the time. But if that didn't work, if we went with a second rate provider, or if our designs weren't fabulous, which they are, then that's going to reflect our entire 20-year career.
mm,
So pick carefully, work carefully. We've worked with big end agencies on a couple of large clients where they've had a big top end city agency, and we've been the mid tier. That's worked all right, except that big end agencies tend to have a different philosophy and a way of working from mid-tier, which is we're far more agile and nimble and all that sort of stuff, and we're faster. Whereas they've got a lot of layers to keep going, and that's a pretty hard thing to gel together. But yeah, if we can work together in some way, and have the boundaries clear, and it's a win-win for both, and your gut says it's good, then yeah, absolutely.
mm. Well, I find with our agency that majority of referral partners for us are people who are actually perceived to be our competitors. Because if you look at it from a distance, you think, hey, this company does this and this company does exactly the same. Well, no, it's very different. And I like what you said about, I guess, focusing on something you're good at, because a lot of the businesses initially try to do everything just to get the customers on board. And then, if they keep growing like that, then I guess they spread themselves thin, and
Mm,
end up doing a lot of things that are not really that great. So partnering with other businesses that can really fill the gap and bring expertise is really what allows you to grow, specialize, and actually charge more for your services as well. Because if you're really good at one thing, focus on that one thing, that's going to be super profitable for you. You just need the stream of work coming in. So
yeah.
yeah, look, we've partnered with social media, video, branding companies in the past, coaches, and so on. I think for other businesses, like sometimes they don't realize this, but for, let's say, pool builders, it's a good idea to partner up with builders who don't do swimming pools, because a lot of the time it's a
Yeah.
natural synergy. A builder may be working on a project where they don't do swimming pools, but then if you build that alliance, you're able to refer to one another, end up with better customers. It's not about price, it's about outcome. Building designers, architects, there's a whole bunch of different groups of business that you can identify that basically can provide, let's say, swimming pool builders all the work. But it's really all about that specialty that really makes the business a lot better. And it's also faster turnaround times as well. When you focus on the
Absolutely.
one thing, you can
Yeah.
do something really well. You can do it faster. I mean, we had a swimming pool built last year, and I think they dug up a shell in like a week. It was phenomenal how fast everything happened. And then I think it took them like another month to basically get everything else in place. Obviously, the concrete had to dry up, but I reckon if it wasn't for that, it'll be like a 10-day turnaround time. It was really, really quite amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's there's something about working with a specialist as opposed to working with someone who's a jack of all trades.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the services that this is another sort of development, I suppose, over the last few years, is that we've become an outsourced marketing department for a number of clients, right? So, which means that there are services that are and projects that need to be done that we wouldn't do because we're not specialists. But
Mm,
then we're able to farm out to these partners, and have full trust, because it reflects on our brand and our relationship with the client. And that's, you can't risk if you can't risk breaking trust with a client that you've had for a number of years by putting out to a partner and a specialist that doesn't deliver, it's just, it's just bad business. So to build that trust, it's really it's quite a special thing to have a partner trust that you can just go back and forward. I think, it's like an extension of the business.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if someone wants to reach out and have a chat to you about, I guess, social media or branding or just getting some direction, I understand you do a discovery call, right?
Yes, yeah, we're happy to do a discovery call.
Okay, tell us more about that. How does that sort of work and how does that sort of go?
Well, generally speaking, you just go into the website and fill out the form and get in touch, and we'll be, like you say, we are very quick off the mark to respond. And then it's about booking in a 30-minute or 45-minute call where we'll ask a whole lot of questions. It's almost like sometimes our clients on that discovery call are sort of feeling like they're being interrogated, but they're not. It's just to understand what the opportunities are, what's worked in the past, what hasn't, what the big picture goal is. Tell me more about your customer. What are the objections? What are how much are you making from this product as opposed to this product? So how can we focus on that? So it's not what color do you like or what button do you want on your website. That's very much not what we're doing. We're going, what's the strategy around the brand and the marketing and the messaging to get to your ideal customer to generate more business for you. It's as simple as that. So then we would look at that and go, yes, we're in a position to help. Or if we're not, if it's more like Google Ads, for example, we'd say, we don't do that specifically. We have a partner. We're happy to hand over, blah, blah, blah. But we'll definitely, it's like an audit of where you're at right now and a direction for the future. Because without that direction and that strategy plan, you're just not going to, it's going to be slower and messier. Let's nail it and understand what you're trying to achieve and then go, right, this is what we recommend is the best process.
Okay. Well, I think that's great because I think a lot of businesses initially, they sort of jump into what the customer is asking about. Hey, let's build a logo and just focus on that. I think, I can see from what you're saying, it's really more about the outcome. And I think that really is what puts your strategy apart from all the competitors because a lot of the time people really want a brand and they don't understand the whole brand as a strategy. They just understand the logo or the color scheme and that's it. So I love that approach. Cool. So where would our listeners go if they wanted to book a time with you? Is it whitespacemarketing.com?
Whitespacemarketing.com.au. Go to there's a button up in the top right side. Just contact us and just fill out that form. And yeah, we're more than happy to discuss it. I think if you can, the one thing to remember is that for businesses, especially small business starting out, is remember what's in it for your customer. That what's in it for me is what drives marketing. It's not what you do, it's the outcome. So
right. Okay, cool. Well, I'll include that in the description of these podcasts so that if anyone wants the link, they can click through and book a time with you. Now, before I let you go, I've got this section that I do with our guest called Rapid Fire. This is where I ask you a pretty simple question, but I just want a very quick answer. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so what's your favorite personal development book?
Art of War.
Yep. Art of War. Okay, I thought you said out of all. Okay, out of war. That's very strategic. Sun Tzu. Okay. What's the best city in the world? Obviously, you've done a fair bit of travel.
Probably. I'm going to say Melbourne. I love Melbourne.
Okay, great. And what's your favorite brand? Surely you're inspired by some.
So many. I can't even tell you. I probably, from a marketing perspective, I'm going to say McDonald's because they just do it so well. I'm not the product, but the brand strategy. I just go, oh, I just nail it every single time.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's so simple and it's so straightforward, and it doesn't require, I guess, a degree to understand what these guys are trying to push for. But every time the brand comes up, it's really aligned with a lot of good things. I mean, the Ronald McDonald House, all their charities, all their projects outside of the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
And that they're simple. It's simple. Simplicity is key to cut through. Absolutely, that's what I love.
Awesome. Well, Phoebe, thanks very much for finding the time to jump on a call to do a podcast with me. I hope
Thank you.
that our listeners have, picked up a few things and, basically would be able to make some changes, I guess, with their marketing, or at least start asking the right questions.
Thanks,
Really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
thanks, Alexei. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, if you enjoyed this, make sure that you don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button. That really helps us rank in all the algorithms. And yeah, I'll chat to you soon.